Today we will be discussing about a unique crop residue management packages, which I call myself a promising strategy for soil moisture conservation. So the topic itself has two major components. The first one is the soil moisture conservation. The concern over here is, why do we have to conserve the soil moisture? What happens if we do not conserve? The second part is, why crop residue? Why not something else? We know there are several ways through which we can conserve the soil moisture, but why particularly we have chosen the crop residue? Okay, so the PowerPoint may be a little bit boring in the beginning, but please keep your eyes open. I will be sharing some unique, interesting facts regarding soil crop residue management. All right, so let us continue. Right, let us try to know about the crop residues, right? So let us try to define the term first. So crop residues are nothing, simply they are the leftover material in the crop fields after the harvest of the economic parts, which means the grains, seeds, fruits, etc. Right? After this, while we talk about the production of these residues, so in the world, the Asian continent is in the highest producer, that is about 47%, followed by America, Europe, Africa, and Oceania. Then, so among the different crop residues, wheat, maize, rice, sugarcane, soybean, barley, these are the major contributors of the crop residue, according to a report by FAO 2021. But what is the concern over here? If we do not dispose, or if we do not utilize these residues in a proper way, this may have a great negative impact on our surrounding. All right, so we have to dispose, or we have to utilize these residues in a proper way, right? So I have a chart regarding this residue production. So if we look over the last 4 decades throughout the world, the crop residue production is increasing in a great tune. Say you can see from 1960, like 1589 to it's going towards 5,280, right? So we can see an increasing trend of crop residue production. And if we talk about which crop is having the highest production, so in Indian context, we can see rice has the highest crop residue. Okay, so let us move to next slide. Right, so this chart shows in the Southeast Asia, the different countries, they are disposing the crop residues in different way. So this particular chart shows the countries which are disposing the crop residues by burning. Also, you can see India is in the leading position. So which means India is disposing the crop residue in a wrong manner, which will impact the surrounding, the environment in a very negative way, right? So I have a chart regarding how this residue can be managed in a proper way. So while producing a crop, we will have two different components. The first one is the economic part, which I already mentioned, that grains, seeds, etc. The another part is the, you can say, the byproduct or the residues, including stubbles. So these residues can be either managed through a traditional management or by another means, which we call the sustainable green options. For these sustainable green options, we can go for two different categories. The first one is the technology driven and another is the non-technological. So technology driven means this will involve certain technology to be applied. The first one is the biogas and biofuel production. Next might be bioelectricity, biochar, composting, cattle feed, residue incorporation, and other things. So this will involve the use of certain technology. Without the proper technology, we will not be able to go for these things. The next one is the non-technology. So the first one we have under this is the providing or imposing penalty to those which are disposing or which are using these residues in an inappropriate way. The next is the education and awareness to the farmers and youth. The next would be policy making. So making rules and regulations why this residue has to be disposed or utilized in a proper way. Okay, so using these residues in a sustainable way is going to have a big challenge. It is not a simple way. So we will have challenges like the residue collection, transportation and storage. Then we will have problems like clean energy technology and technology transfer, right? So while we are processing these crop residues, there might be producing of harmful gases or other things. So it may compromise the clean energy concept. So we have to look after these things also. The next thing is the trading and market. So we have to collect these residues from somewhere, that is the purchase, and after processing, we have to sell or we have to sell the product. So this will also have a big challenge. The next thing we have is the time window. Okay, so what is crop residue again? The crop residue is the byproduct. Okay, in Indian context, what the farmers do after harvest of his crop, the farmers wants to go for next crop. So he cannot wait for a long time with the residue in his field. He has to dispose immediately. So there is a big challenge for window as well. And this again creates another problem of farmers' unwillingness. All right. The next is the local database, and the last one is the economic viability. That means whatever we are doing, whether it is profitable or not, this will be a big challenge. Okay, so the next one is the traditional management. So this is the method the farmers that usually do in their field. That is the open air burning. So what type of problem it arises when the farmers burn these residues in the field? The first one is the loss of the carbon stock. The next is the loss of soil moisture. Next, we have loss of the microbes, organic matter degradation, and air pollution. So such types of problems will be arises if we burn these residues in the field. Just a moment. Right, so we have certain types of management packages to dispose or to utilize these residues. So we have to choose which one is the most feasible, which one is the most profitable, or which one is the most affordable for the farmer. So let us move to the next slide. All right, so if we have a proper crop residue management package, what benefits do we get from it? The first one is we will have a better soil health and the more fertile soil. There shall be reduction in the soil erosion, and most important to this topic, so more soil water conservation. Okay, so the crop residues can also help to conserve soil moisture by reducing evaporation and runoff. The next is it can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So these are some of the main benefits which can derive from the proper use of these crop residues, right? Let us move to next slide again. Okay, so these were some of the important facts about the crop residues. Now, we have another important component of this topic, that is the soil and water. Okay, so you might be remembering that the 5th of December 2023 was observed as a World Soil Day with a beautiful theme, that soil and water as a source of life, right? We are considering, we are in the belief that soil and water, this is the source of life. Okay, let us see why we consider or why we believe soil is the most important substance on the earth, right? So there are several reasons why we claim or why we believe soil is the most important substance on the earth. Like you can say, climate regulation, nutrient cycling, habitat for certain organisms, flood regulations, source of pharmaceuticals and genetic resources, foundations for human being and human and infrastructures, and many more. So we can say within and beyond agriculture, soil is important everywhere. If we want to construct a building, we are going to need a strong foundation, that is soil. And if we want to have a food, then that is agriculture, that's going to need again this soil, right? But if we closely look from the point of agriculture view, right? So to answer why soil is important, we have to ask another question, that is where food begins. Okay, so it is simple again. 95% of our food comes from soil, not simply a soil, a healthy soil. Okay, without having a healthy soil, we're not going to get the secure nutrition to the human beings, right? So to have this healthy soil, what do we need? We're going to need, again, good quality and a good amount of available water in the soil, right? So the soil and water combinedly, it becomes a key role in sustaining our planet. Okay, so apart from this, This healthy soil can purify, drain, and store water, making it an indispensable foundation for life on the earth, right? So apart from this, I have other points that claims why water is important in soil. Right. So soil water has always been an integrated part of the soil ecosystem, right? So the next is the nutrient transformations. Okay, so you might have heard about the mineralization and other nutrient transformations. Whatever the nutrients we applied in the soil, the fertilizers, if I talk about urea, the urea has to be converted into a form which are available to the plants, like for example, ammonium or nitrate. This has to be done by certain microbes. That is called the nutrient transformation. So without water or in the absence of water, this transformation is never going to happen. The next is the microbial metabolism. So just like I said, this nutrient transformation and other biochemical processes which are taking place in the soil, majority of the reactions are microbial metabolisms. Okay, so the microbes, they will decompose organic matter, they will reproduce themselves. Okay, and for the decomposition of this compost and other things, microbes will involve. So in the absence of water, these microbes will never survive over there. So for the microbial metabolism, water is needed. The next is the plant metabolism. Just like the microbes, the plant also needs water. So if we have a closer look, all the organisms, including human beings, we have certain amount of water in our bodies. So the plant has the highest amount of water. The water content of a plant may go up to like 95% if we talk about banana, right? So the plant needs certain amount of water. So without this water, the plant will never be able to complete its life cycle. It will never be able to complete its important activities like chlorophyll formation, photosynthesis, and other activities. The next is the nutrient uptake. Okay, so the nutrients which are available in the soil has to be taken up by the plants to be used for the certain its important activities. So this uptake has to be take take place in the presence of water. So in the absence of water or in the lack of water, nutrient uptake will be compromised. The next is the nutrient translocation. So let us say the nutrient has been absorbed or taken up by the plants. So those nutrients has to be transferred into certain locations like the leaves, the stems, or other parts. So this has to be done by the water. Okay, so in the absence of water, there will be compromise in this nutrient translocation again. All right, so let us continue again. So you might be remembering this chart. So soil is always considered as a three-phase dispersed system in which water is also always a major component. The same in this chart also you can see water is always a important part of the soil, right? So, but now we do have a big reason to worry about that the percent area which is affected by drought in our planet has been just more double in the last 4 decades, which will have a great negative impact on human being for drinking and other purposes, and in the agriculture as well for the use of the plants. Okay, so there is a rising concern for conserving soil moisture to be used by agricultural crops. Okay, so with this, all right. So what happens if we are unable to conserve the soil moisture, right? So plant will have certain amount of stress if it doesn't get the required amount of soil moisture. So before going there, let us try to see one more thing again. So the plant experience certain amount of stress because of different reasons. So the stress experienced by the plant can be divided into two different ways. The first one is the biotic, that is the stress which is resulted from the living organisms like insect attack, microorganisms, pathogen attack, and eaten up by some herbivores. The next part is the abiotic stress, which is resulted from the non-living things, right? So the first one is the drought, that is the excessive dryness. The next is the extremes of temperature, which may be too much of hotness or too much of cold. Okay, the next we have is the rain. That is the excessive rainfall. It may cause the flood. So for today's topic, we are over here. We are going to talk about drought management. All right. So we have two plants over here. On the left hand side, you can see a plant which is completely healthy. So this plant is able to take up the nutrients which are available in the soil, right? So in comparison to this, we have another plant which is already under stress of due to drought and salinity. So what happens in this case? Some of the nutrients, they are far away from the root zone, and some of the nutrients like this chlorine, this sodium, they are dissolved. Okay, so chlorine, even though this is a micronutrient, their excess presence is harmful. Okay, so in the low moisture situation, what happens? There will be obstacle, there will be hindrance in the nutrient uptake. So what might happen when a plant experience stress conditions? There might be uh, retardation in the growth, reduction in the yield, compromise in the chlorophyll formation, photosynthesis, and many other physiological activities. So which will ultimately reduce the yield, okay, which may fail the life cycle of the crop itself. Okay, let us move to next slide. Right, so considering all these facts, myself along with my co-workers, we conducted multiple number of experiments to conserve soil moisture. So I will try to explain one of the experiment we conducted. So the entire experiment has two different sets. The first one is the rain-fed, which means we are not going to provide any irrigation on that site. Another, we have irrigated. So we will supply irrigation on those plots. So in each of the sets, we have three different tillages: no tillage, minimum tillage, and another conventional tillage. So in each tillage, except conventional tillage, we again have three residue management packages. RNTZ, it means rain-fed, no tillage, zero residue. RNTR, it means rain-fed, no tillage, and residue. And another we have RNTM is the rain-fed, no tillage, and mulching. So the same set is existing in the case of minimum tillage as well. So the same set is replicated in the irrigated as well. So we are having this complete set. Right. So the hypothesis, what we considered while framing this experiment. Okay, so let us talk about the first three tillages we chosen. The first one is the conventional tillage. So what happens in conventional tillage? We simply plow or we simply till the surface layer of the soil. What happens in this case? There will be disturbance in the pores, breakdown of the capillary continuity. So there will be maximum amount of macroporosity. So big spaces will be there. So there will be maximum amount of water loss from this particular treatment. So in the no tillage and minimum tillage, so there will be minimum amount of macroporosity and there will be abundant or maximum amount of microporosity, which can store maximum amount of water. But particularly in the case of minimum tillage, a minute portion of the soil is being tilled or by simply using a kudal or furrow opener, just to facilitate the root penetration and the early crop establishment. Okay, so this is all about the three different tillages, and let us talk about the four different residue management packages. In conventional tillage, there is no residue. The surface is completely bare, or you can say naked, so there will be maximum evaporational loss. The next we have is the straw mulch, providing mulch. So in this case, what happens? There will be minimum contact of sunlight to the soil surface. So there will be minimum amount of evaporational loss. Okay, so the next we have 10 centimeter stubble height. So in this case, what happens? If we compare to the conventional tillage, there will be lesser amount of evaporational loss. But if we talk about 20 centimeter stubble height, what happens? You can see the figure over here. See, the zone of shadow. This plays an important role. Okay, so because of the standing stubble height, what happens? The sunlight, which was supposed to fall on the soil surface, has been intercepted. Because of this, there has been minimum area of soil surface which is exposed to the sunlight, which reduces evaporation. So one more advantage we get over here is the wind speed. Okay, so let us see on the conventional tillage. So the wind will blow over here, just above the soil surface. So what will happen over there? Whatever the water evaporated from the soil surface, it will blown away immediately. In the case of mulching, what happens? Already there is minimum evaporation and the surface is already covered. So the wind will not blow away the evaporated water. So the soil surface will be covered with the moisture.
Hello, sir. Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Perhaps there has been a network problem from his side. Sir has lost his connection due to some network issue. Kindly be patient. He will be connecting with us soon.
Sincere apologies to everyone. I was disconnected. So please anybody tell me how far I have gone. I have explained
So you are
about
audible
this.
now.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please tell me how far I have gone. I have. Do I have I completed this step? This slide. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Please tell me how far I have gone. Have I completed this slide?
Sir, your slideshow is not visible.
Okay, let me do once again. Just a moment, please. Is it visible now?
No, sir. It's all black. Now, yes, sir. Now
It
it's
is visible.
visible.
Okay, please tell me how far I have gone. Have I
We were on the
completed
hypothesis of
this
tillage.
slide? So have I completed this slide?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let us continue then. So this is the hypothesis we had while we frame our experiment, right? So let me try to show you how it actually look in the actual field, right? So the right hand side shows the 10 centimeter stubble height and the left hand side shows 20 centimeter stubble height. So you can see the difference over here. So the shadow effect is slightly over here in the 10 centimeter stubble height, but in the case of 20 centimeter stubble height, the shadow effect is quite large. So which will have a great impact on soil moisture conservation. So yeah, it may sound like crazy, but the result we found, I'm sure this will definitely blow your mind. Okay, let us continue again. Right, so this is how we operated the minimum tillage. So you can see the height of the stubble, that is slightly just below the knee, that is about approximately 20 centimeter. This is the providing of mulching on no-tillage plot. So this is overview of different treatments. And this is the complete view of the entire experimental field. Okay, right. So this is how we record the soil moisture data throughout our experiment. Right, so let me try to share the result what we observed. So the first one is the ETA, that is the actual amount of evapotranspiration we received, or you can say the actual amount of water which has been used in the field. So you can see over here. So let us try to compare the first 3 points, that is 10 centimeter plus mulching, 20 centimeter stubble height, and 10 centimeter stubble height. So you can see the 10 centimeter stubble height has the highest amount of water used. So against the mulching has the least amount of water used. So if we talk about the tillages we provided, minimum tillage has the least amount of water used, and no tillage has the highest amount of water used. So CT is in the mid range. Now let us try to see the corresponding yield we receive from this water used. Okay, so CT had the least amount of yield provision. The next we have among the tillages, no tillage is in the mid, and minimum tillage had the highest yield production. If we talk about the residue management, mulching had the highest amount of yield production. Next to this, we had 20 centimeter stubble height, and 10 centimeter stubble had the least amount of yield production. So if you compare the water use and the yield production, so it might be quite controversial. Okay, so controversial with the literatures. So the theoretical concept, what it says, with the increase in evapotranspiration, yield increases, right? So in our case, we're getting the reverse thing. This means the mulching plot, even though it had the minimum amount of water used, it is having the highest yield production. So what could be the possible reason behind this? Okay, so we had to do one more experiment. Okay, so we had to split the evapotranspiration. So everybody must be knowing that what is evapotranspiration? It is the sum of evaporation and transpiration. So transpiration is the amount of water lost from the plant surfaces, and evaporation is the amount of water which has been lost from the soil surface, which has nothing to do with the crop production. Okay, the amount of water lost through evaporation is completely gone. This has never contributed to the crop production. So we try to conduct another experiment to split evaporation and transpiration, right? So let us see. So you can see over here a graph. It shows Kc is the single crop coefficient. Kcv is the transpiration coefficient, you can say. The amount of water which has been lost through transpiration, and another is the Ke, that is the evaporation coefficient, the amount of water lost through evaporation. So let me tell you first that we are expecting minimum amount of water lost through Ke. Okay, so what is Ke? It is simply the difference between Kc and Kcb. Okay, let us see. Right. So this is the point over here. So let us try to focus on the point over here. The figure over here is just slightly below 0.2 to slightly below 0.4. This is the gap between Kc and Kcb. That is the amount of water lost through evaporation. So let us compare with another two treatments. Right. So this was, I was talking about 10 centimeter stable height. The next one, left side, is the 20 centimeter stable height. All right. So let us focus over here. The gap between Kc and Kcb is a little bit narrower in this case, which means the amount of water lost through evaporation is little bit lower than the 10 centimeter stable height. Now, again, if we talk about the third graph, right? So you can see, sorry, I was supposed to use the pen, right? So this fraction, right? So there is a minimum gap in mulching treatments. So the amount of water lost through evaporation was minimum in the case of mulching. All right. So let us continue. Right. So if we talk about conventional tillage, see, we have a big gap over here. Let us try to focus on the figure. The value is slightly below 0.2 to like around 0.5. So this is a big gap. We have a big gap over here. That means in conventional case, the amount of water lost through evaporation was maximum. That means even though the water was extracted from the profile, it was never contributed on the crop production. It was simply lost from the profile. Okay. Right. So this part shows the soil moisture dynamics in different treatments throughout the field. Okay, so we have different water level boundaries. The first one is the saturation, you can say, right? The next is the fill capacity, and then we have wilting point. Okay, so you must be knowing that the water content between fill capacity and wilting point is called the TAW, that is the total available water, of which a particular fraction is completely readily available to the plant to be extracted. Okay, so let us try to focus on the experiment now. So the red line shows RCT, that is rain-fed conventional tillage. So what happened in this case? By the time the crop reaches like around 50 to 52 days, the water content in the profile drops below readily available water, which means the crop has started experiencing soil moisture stress condition. Okay, the next, another treatment, the yellow, what is this? That is 10 centimeter stable height. So in this case, what happens? 70 days onwards, the soil moisture in the profile drops below readily available water, which means again, the crop in this plot experience moisture stress condition 70 days onwards. In another case, what happened? After 80 days onwards, and the last one, the mulching treatment. So the crop experienced soil moisture stress, like the crop reaches like around 110 days. So this is in the end season. So the crop doesn't require water in this phase. So we can say in mulching treatment, the crop completed its life cycle without experiencing any stress. Okay, so this is all about the comparison of the different residue management. Now let me talk about the tillages. So we have rain-fed no tillage, rain-fed minimum tillage, and rain-fed conventional tillage. There's some explanation over here. The CT, 50 days onwards, it experienced soil moisture stress. NT, minimum tillage, like around approximately 100 days after, and another is the 110 after days. So we can say in minimum tillage and no tillage, the crop never experiences water stress conditions. Okay, so these are the findings we got. And let me share some of the publications we made through this different experiment. So the first publication we made, we focus on the stubble height. What is the impact on stubble height while producing lentil? Okay, so you can see over here, we actually conducted experiment in two different rice habits, the short duration rice and another is the long duration rice. So what happens in both the cases, the short stubble height, the dotted line, experience soil moisture stress earlier in comparison to the tall stubble height. So you might be saying that is only 20 days, that's hardly 20 days. So a crop having a life cycle of 120 to 30 days, if it gets an advantage of 20 days extra, it makes a big deal. Okay, so it's quite important. So during this stage, if a crop experiences moisture stress, it's going to skip its life cycle, right? So it makes a big difference. The next publication we made was we focus on different tillage. Okay, so let me see the result. Okay, so we have the three different tillages: CT, NT, and MT. So you can see over here again, the focus is the same. So approximately 55 days onward, the crops under CT experiences moisture stress conditions. In the case of no tillage, it started 70 days onwards, and in the another case, 80 days onwards. So the crops under CT had the maximum amount of moisture, right? We have again another experiment, so which focus on sowing time, right? Sowing time and different tillages, right? So in this experiment, we use three different sowing times: early, late, and mid. Okay, so the whole experiment was conducted using two different tillages again, zero tillage and conventional tillage. So if we focus on the above graph, for the first one, see, I have explained earlier, we are going to focus on the readily available waters. So the boundary is over here, right? So in the early sowing, the crop started experiencing soil moisture stress condition approximately 85 days onwards. If we compare the same thing again in the mid sowing, approximately around 70 days. And if we talk about late sowing, where is this situation? It's over here. Before reaching 20 days of the sowing, the crop already experiences moisture stress conditions. Now again, let us compare CT and zero tillage. See the two lines over here. The above is the zero tillage and black one is the conventional tillage. So ZT is always above. The difference is narrow, but there is a difference over here and another here, like around it's getting a margin of approximately 10 to 15 days. So it makes a big deal. Okay, so the same trend we experience on the next year as well. Okay, let us go to next slide. So this is almost as coefficient. Okay, this chart explains the same thing, but it is showing the soil moisture stress. Okay, the same result which is from the same experiment. Okay, so here what happens, like 70 days and under in the approximately 85 days. Okay, here 20 days and onwards, approximately 20 days. Okay, so the crops under these treatments are experiencing maximum amount of stress when we sow them late. Okay, so let us go to the next slide. Let us go to another experiment. Okay, so in this case, what happened? We followed different types of rice growing habit. Okay, DSR direct seeded rice, PTR is the puddle transplanting rice, CT is the conventional tillage, ZT is the zero tillage, IP is the improved package, which has the RTF, that is the recommended dose of fertilizer along with rhizobium treatment, and FP is the farmer's practice, which simply has the recommended dose of fertilizer. So what you can see from here, zero tillage has the highest amount of soil moisture conservation. I mean to say, in the ZT, the crop experiences water stress late. The next is the IP, improved package. Okay, so CT had the least amount of moisture storage, and CT had the highest amount of moisture stress. Okay, now let us come to next slide. Okay, we have another experiment again. So here we focus on different tillages. Okay, so we focus on tillage and potassium management, right? Here again, no tillage, minimum tillage, and conventional tillage. no tillage is over here, right? It is experiencing moisture stress lately. MT is in the intermediate stage, and CT had the earlier moisture stress condition over here again, right? The same thing follows in another area also. Okay, so this is the root behavior, okay, in response to different potassium management. Also, okay, so K0 is the no potassium, KB means the basal application of potassium, KF is the foliar application of potassium, and KBF is the both basal as well as foliar application of potassium. So you can see over here. Okay, so in the treatments where we applied potassium through basal as well as foliar, they had the higher root volume, root diameter, root surface area, everything is higher. Okay, so along with the tillage and residue management, if we have a proper potassium management strategies, we can have a proper, better crop production. Okay, let us go to next slide. Okay, so I'd like to conclude the whole experiment with these few remarks. Okay, so providing rice stromas ensure the greatest soil moisture conservation and crop yield. This is obvious. Okay, so there is nothing new in this. Everybody knows about it. Okay, when we apply mulches to the crop fields, it will give us better yield, better soil moisture conservation, and better crop yield. Everybody knows about it. But what unique we found? Okay, the second point, 20 centimeter stubble height also ensured higher soil moisture conservation and crop yield next to mulching. So there has been only compromise of 8.1% in the yield. Okay, so how this happened? By simply reducing evaporation and loss of soil moisture. Okay, the next one we have manipulation in the sowing time. That is, early sowing had an advantage for better crop establishment through utilizing higher soil moisture prior to cutting of the previous crop. The next, appropriate tillage operation favors better soil moisture conservation, leading to greater crop yield. Just like in our case, we always found minimum tillage, right? So the last one is the judicious potash fertilizer management. It will have an additional advantage of crop production. Okay, so how this happened? Just because the potassium induced soil moisture stress tolerance. Okay, so whatever we are talking about, moisture conservation, whatever, we are talking about soil only. Okay, so without having a good soil, we cannot expect anything. So there is no soil, no life. Okay, we cannot expect anything without soil. All right. So thank you very much. That's all about the day. Thank you very much.